Well, our first guest joins me in studio, Mr. Brian Altunian. He is the Chief Operating Officer of Platinum Studios, stock symbols PDOS. Brian, always good to see you.
Thank you, Don. Good to be back.
Now, we were chatting here before going on the air about incredible box office last week with the movie Star Trek,
right.
And there's a connection between that blockbuster and what you folks are doing. Tell us about that.
That's right. The writers are Alex Kurtzman and Roberta Orsi, who wrote Star Trek, are also the writing team for our Cowboys and Aliens film at DreamWorks. And they have another project coming out this summer, which people may have heard of, a film called Transformers 2. So their hands have been pretty full. The nice thing about it is every time, and they've gotten a lot of press lately. They've formed their own company now that they're producing projects with, and so the great thing is that all the press has all talked about what's next on the plate for you guys, and they keep mentioning Cowboys and Aliens as the next project. So
it's really amazing when I think about when you and I first met and you first appeared on the program not quite a year ago, maybe 9 or 10 months ago, and we were talking about this massive library of comic book characters that you own, and that the company was endeavoring to license these to all forms of media, whether television, video games, and we talked about feature films.
Right.
And in that period of time, and I'm going to say, the starting gun was probably around September, October of last year, all of a sudden we're talking about Dead of Night, which is just about close to wrapping up principal photography in New Orleans.
Right.
That stars Brandon Routh, of course, was the most recent Superman.
Right.
Major Hollywood players attached to that project. And now your other feature that you're getting ready with is Cowboys and Aliens. Again, major people in Hollywood attached to that. I mean, your phone must be ringing.
Yeah, it was 2008 was a great year, and it was also kind of a scary year because we've had this this horrible economy. But for us, it also marked the beginning of us emerging as a public company, as a public entity as well. And so, a lot of firsts for us. And coming on the program was starting to talk about it, starting to create awareness to to the market about what the company was all about. Yeah, it was a little bit like a nexus year for us. And so, we hadn't closed the Dead of Night deal. Now we're wrapping production next week. I'm actually going back to New Orleans on Monday for the wrap. We've got another independent project. Our project Witchblade is moving forward. That's going to be another independently financed film, very similar to the finance structure for Dead of Night. Witchblade's a property that a lot of people in the States are familiar with. It's one of the first American properties to actually be transformed into manga for the Japanese market. So we've got an international audience already for Witchblade. And then we've got these two big projects at DreamWorks. We've got Cowboys and Aliens, which is now picking up a lot of heat, and then Atlantis Rising already has a director attached to it. And so, yeah, for us, it is really starting to happen. As I said, 2009 was really always going to be a good year for us in our projections, but the economy last year slowed things down. We had a writer's strike last year, a pending SAG strike last year, so it did have a bit of an impact. But I'll say, we're already showing we're going to be releasing our first quarter numbers, first time in a while. We're actually going to show a profit. So we are actually going to see some things happen in 2009 for the company that are really fantastic, and a lot of it, had to do with us, at the end of last year, starting to just put ourselves out there and create an awareness for the company.
Well, we talk about the economy, of course, a lot on this program, and but yet in your industry, that doesn't seem to affect you as much as from the most recent end user being the person who buys movie tickets. I mean, right around Thanksgiving last year is when this whole recession thing seemed to have begun, and yet the industry sold $250 million worth of tickets that weekend in the U.S. alone.
Right. And
then, of course, recently here this past weekend, 75 million fly in our studio here. 75 million people, $75 million for the Star Trek movie.
Absolutely, and which was the best opening ever for a Star Trek movie. And again, the great thing about Star Trek. So first of all, let me answer what you're going to. Box office records every month now since this recession began. We're seeing video game sales skyrocket. We're seeing people who are, again, this discretionary income is going down for a lot of folks, and so it's how they utilize their time with their entertainment. So television we're seeing a lot of programs now, getting a lot of attention. We're seeing record numbers, things like American Idol, a record number of interactivity.
Right.
The internet hasn't diluted entertainment delivery. It's actually enhanced it considerably, and that's free content for folks.
Sure.
Obviously, box office, big box office record. So it really has been it's been a boon for our industry. The impact has been that the industry is giving us a chance to sort of clean the decks a little bit, and sort of get down to the nitty gritty and focus on the important thing, which is delivery of content. And for our company, the suffering, I will say, was really in how the other folks brought financing to the table. The excuse to kind of push things off into 2009, 2010. But for us, it really, we're starting to see, as I said, we were able to get financing for Dead of Night in a time when financing was impossible for folks. So.
Now, I would think with all of this attention being paid towards you right now, and of course you will see Dead of Night more than likely released in 2010, that projects you are looking at getting financed now, the road must be much easier.
Absolutely. It's a lot easier because we actually took over the production entity for Dead of Night, and so we really, we basically can say that Platinum Studios was the entity that secured the financing for this film and puts us in a completely different category than where we were last year when we started this, and again this Nexus year, which was an intellectual property house that was looking to licensing our very large library. Now we're actually moving into that space of being able to not only produce but also get financing for the production. We also, in a very short period of time, we're looking at a video game alliance. We've got a game developer that we're very, very, very excited to be in business with. We'll be able to, to talk about that. So we're looking at this exploitation of this material across as many forms of media as we possibly can, and that was always our goal. The last year was a tough year for us as a newly emerging public company, but the great thing is it was a tough year for everybody. We've laid the groundwork. This will be a good year for us.
Outstanding. Platinum Studios, PDOS. Brian, always a pleasure.
Thank you, Don. Thanks for having me.